Welcome to Dark History After Midnight. Tonight, I'm bringing you 5 true, terrifying American horror stories that will make your blood run cold. Make sure to hit that subscribe button right now, and I invite you to stick around for the entire video, because the final story will truly keep you awake tonight. Turn off the lights, and let's begin. All right, folks, picture this. It's 1975, Long Island, New York. You've just found your dream home in the sleepy, picturesque town of Amityville, a massive Dutch colonial house with a boathouse, a swimming pool, and a price tag that's almost too good to be true. But there's a catch. Just a year prior, this very house was the scene of a gruesome family annihilation. Ronald DeFeo Jr. took a lever-action rifle and murdered his entire family while they slept. But hey, a deal's a deal, right? That's what George and Kathy Lutz thought when they packed up their 3 kids and moved into 112 Ocean Avenue. Almost immediately, things got completely unhinged. We're not talking about creaky floorboards or drafty windows. We're talking about pitch-black ooze bubbling out of the keyholes. The house was constantly freezing, no matter how high they cranked the thermostat. George started waking up every single night at 3:15 a.m., the exact estimated time the DeFeo murders took place. He'd hear a marching band tuning up in the living room, only to run down the stairs and find absolutely nothing. Then came the flies, hundreds of them swarming the sewing room in the dead of winter. But the real terror centered around their youngest daughter, Missy. She started talking to an imaginary friend named Jody, not a little girl, but an entity with glowing red eyes that she said could change shape. One night, Kathy looked out the window and saw those exact red eyes staring back at her from the darkness. After just 28 days, the Lutz family fled in the middle of the night, leaving all their belongings, their clothes, even the food in the fridge. They never went back. To this day, folks argue about what really happened in Amityville, but those 28 days of pure American suburban terror remain unexplained. Story 2: The Red Eyes in the West Virginia Woods. Down in the Appalachian foothills sits Point Pleasant, West Virginia. In the mid-1960s, this quiet, blue-collar town became ground zero for one of the most bizarre and terrifying flaps of paranormal activity in American history. It all started in November 1966. 2 young couples were cruising near an abandoned World War II TNT plant just outside of town. The area was a maze of concrete domes and dark woods, the perfect spot for teenagers to hang out. But as their headlights swept across the cracked pavement, they caught something standing near the old generator plant. It was a man, or at least it was shaped like a man. It stood nearly 7 feet tall, but it had massive wings folded against its back. And the eyes, the witnesses swore the eyes were glowing red, practically burning through the darkness. Terrified, the driver slammed on the gas, tearing down Route 62 at over 100 miles per hour. But when they looked in the rearview mirror, this thing wasn't just following them, it was flying directly above their car, keeping pace without even flapping its wings. Over the next year, over 100 people in Point Pleasant reported seeing the Mothman. Dogs went missing, televisions scrambled when the creature was near, and strange men in black began rolling into town, threatening witnesses to keep their mouths shut. The terror culminated in December 1967, when the Silver Bridge, connecting West Virginia to Ohio, collapsed during rush hour traffic, plunging 46 people into the freezing Ohio River. After the tragedy, the Mothman vanished as quickly as it had arrived. Was it a curse? A warning? Whatever it was, the red eyes of Point Pleasant have never been forgotten. Story 3: The House Built for Ghosts, California. Let's head over to the West Coast, San Jose, California. Imagine having unlimited money, but you're convinced that if you ever stop building your house, you'll drop dead. That was the tragic, twisted reality of Sarah Winchester, the heiress to the Winchester repeating arms fortune. After losing her husband and her infant child, Sarah sought out a medium. The psychic gave her a chilling prophecy. The spirits of everyone ever killed by a Winchester rifle were coming for her. To survive, she had to move out west, buy a house, and build continuously. If the hammers stopped, the spirits would get her. So, in 1884, she bought an unfinished farmhouse and hired a crew of carpenters to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The result is the Winchester Mystery House, a sprawling, chaotic mansion designed to confuse the dead. We're talking staircases that lead directly into solid ceilings, doors that open to a 2-story drop into the yard, cabinets that are less than an inch deep, miles of secret hallways where Sarah would weave through the house to lose the spirits she believed were tailing her. She slept in a different bedroom every single night. She held midnight seances in a specialized room to get building instructions from the spirits. For 38 years, the sawing and hammering never stopped, until the day Sarah died in her sleep in 1922. The moment the carpenters heard the news, they dropped their tools mid-swing and walked away. Today, folks who visit the mansion report hearing phantom footsteps, seeing doorknobs turn on their own, and feeling a cold, heavy presence in the labyrinth of the dead. It's a monument to American grief and unimaginable terror. Story 4. The Entity in the Orchard, Tennessee. Now we're heading deep into the South, Adams, Tennessee, the early 1800s. The story of the Bell Witch is one of the only recognized cases in American history where a spirit was actually credited with the death of a human being. John Bell was a successful farmer, well respected by his neighbors, but things took a dark turn when he shot at a strange animal in his cornfield, a creature that looked like a dog with the head of a rabbit. It vanished into thin air. Shortly after, the noises started. Heavy scratching on the outside logs of the cabin, the sound of rocks being dropped on the roof. Then it moved inside. The Bell family would wake up to the sounds of invisible dogs fighting on the hardwood floor and the sickening sound of beds being violently shaken. The entity, which eventually called itself Kate, began speaking to them. At first, it was just whispers, but soon it was a disembodied, booming voice that echoed off the cabin walls. Kate hated John Bell. She swore she would kill him. The entity would physically attack the family, slapping his daughter Betsy and pulling her hair, leaving red welts all over her face. As word spread, even future President Andrew Jackson traveled to the farm to witness it. Legend says his wagon froze in place on the property, and Jackson himself said, "I'd rather face the entire British Army than the Bell Witch." Eventually, the witch made good on her promise. John Bell fell into a stupor and died, and a vial of strange black liquid was found near his bed. The witch's voice filled the room, laughing and claiming she had poisoned him. To this day, folks around Adams say if you go to the Bell Witch Cave, you can still hear her whispering. Story 5. The Horror in the Heartland, Iowa. For our final story, we are going to the heart of the Midwest, Villisca, Iowa, 1912. It was a muggy June night in a town where everyone knew everybody, and nobody locked their doors. The Moore family, Josiah, Sarah, and their 4 kids, had just returned home from a Children's Day service at the local Presbyterian church. They brought along 2 of the neighborhood kids, the Stillinger sisters, to spend the night. They went to sleep in their quiet, white frame house, completely unaware that someone was already inside, waiting in the attic. Sometime after midnight, the intruder crept down the stairs. He bypassed the valuables. He didn't want money. He grabbed Josiah Moore's own axe from the backyard. The killer walked into the master bedroom and brought the blunt end of the axe down on Josiah and Sarah. He then moved from room to room, systematically bludgeoning all 6 children to death in their beds. The next morning, a neighbor noticed the house was eerily quiet. No one had come out to do the chores. When the town marshal finally pushed the front door open, the scene was straight out of a nightmare. The killer had draped clothes over the mirrors and the windows. He had placed a 2-pound slab of uncooked bacon on the floor next to the murder weapon. And most terrifying of all, the killer had locked the doors from the inside, meaning he took his time, wandering the bloody house for hours before slipping out into the dawn. The Villisca Axe Murderer was never caught. The house still stands today, and those who dare to stay overnight report hearing the faint sounds of children crying and the heavy drag of an axe on the wooden floorboards. Thanks for hanging out with me on Dark History After Midnight. If these stories gave you chills, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button and subscribe.